The following is a Gear Network presentation on iHeartRadio.
GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
I am the greatest. The greatest.
JC Money.
From the Gear Network Studios, it's the JC Money Podcast with your host, John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money. And now, here's John.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network's iHeartRadio channel. What is up? How's it going? My name is John Cimino at the JC Money on the Twitter and on Facebook, facebook.com/the JC And I'm going to go ahead and get right into the topics. But first, I must give some love to our Amazon page. It is shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. Go, if you're going to shop on Amazon, please use my link and just go there and do that. It's no additional cost to you, no nothing. It helps sustain this program. It helps sustain this podcast. It helps sustain this network. Easy breezy Japanesey, my babies. Shopgear.com. That's the easiest way to support us and allows us to keep these spontaneous podcasts going, whether it's on the iHeartRadio channel or, like normal, released on Spreaker or iTunes or whatever platform that we have. All right, now, let's move on, shall we? Time to start the show, my babies. My liberal friends, listen to me, and listen to me good. I am on your side, okay? I am very much a left-leaning independent. That being said, there's a lot of the left that agree with me with this particular subject. And it is the Kathy Griffin, Donald Trump severed head thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And as well, it's going to be a brief segment there because I got a big interview. My guest today on the JC Money Podcast, JC Money Show Podcast, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. TJCMS. My guest today, my former manager in pro wrestling, one of them, my longest tenured former manager in pro wrestling, as well as a part-time co-host of the Better Life Than Dead podcast, Mr. Luis Perez. Mr. Perez is going to be joining me here talking some wrestling history, how he got involved, and what he's up to now with the cigar industry. He's big into cigars, and you know, and if you ever had any questions about cigars and how that whole lifestyle is, or how, you know, is there an art or a science to it? Perez has got you covered in the later portion of this show. But before I get to the interview, I just have to say, you know, I've talked a lot about how much I dislike Donald Trump and the Trump administration. How completely, quite frankly, brain dead I think they all are. Everybody in there, you know, bringing in Betsy DeVos, who hates public education, to lead education and things like that. Okay. I agree with quite literally nothing about Donald Trump, and personally, I do not like him. I think he's a scumbag. He's about as much presidential as I am a Harvard graduate, and I'm not a Harvard graduate. That being said, I've said before, you know, and it's been well documented, there's the left and the right. There's also an alt-right and an alt-left. And alt-right and alt-left are absolutely batshit crazy. I'm certainly not alt-left because I have a semblance of mind here. But when I see things like Kathy Griffin severed head, which, by the way, CNN, her sponsors dropped her, CNN dropped her from the New Year's Day coverage, and rightfully so. First of all, Kathy Griffin is painfully unfunny. I couldn't stand her anyways. But that was taking it to an extreme. And for those that say, well, nobody said anything about Ted Nugent saying this and the hang in there Obamas and anything Ann Coulter has said and any of this, yeah, okay, wonderful. You all did. the left side, you did. Every single one of them, including me. I spoke out hardcore about the hang in there Obama with the noose around Obama's neck. I spoke out hardcore about that. This with Donald Trump's head, and again, I am not an advocate of Donald Trump. You can go through any podcast that I've ever had or any post I have on social media. I am not an advocate for the guy. What Kathy Griffin did was absolutely 100% on the level of hanging there Obama. And regardless of whether or not people said everything or nothing about hanging there Obama and all the different things that they've said and they've gone on about him, that doesn't mean that our side has to do that and relish it when it's our turn. Oh, fair is fair. What are we in second grade? No. We don't need to stoop to that level to get our point across. And if you don't believe me, look at the women's marches that happened right after Inauguration Day. Look at all of the protests, peaceful and not peaceful. Although I encourage the peaceful protests way more than I'll never encourage violent protests. But look at the peaceful protests out there. Look at the news being shared, not the Donald Trump quote-unquote fake news bullshit that he'll have you believe, but fact-checking and legit journalistic sourcing has greatly improved since this administration has taken place. Sharing the news, keeping everybody informed, sticking to the task of making sure that valid information is put out there, peacefully protest, and having discussions is the way to get Donald Trump out of the office. That is the way to get your point across to the American people. And I got news for you. Trump is under federal investigation. So, relax. People are talking. The walls are coming in around him. He's going to hurt himself. And like I said, I don't think Trump sees the end of his first term. And if you don't believe me, and if you think I'm full of it, consider this. No vice president has ever created and started his own super PAC in the first term of a presidency. Mike Pence did that. I'm saying be ready for President Pence within the next year or two. Because I don't think Donald Trump is going to finish the term at all. But whether or not he does, showing a severed head to look like him with blood like that, absolutely uncalled for. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. As a human being, you do not do that. So Kathy Griffin, shame on you for that. Shame on you for your crappy comedy, but shame on you for that. And I get you're apologizing profusely and you're really sorry. You're really sorry that happened, that you made a mischief. No, you're sorry that you caught backlash from both sides of the fence. You're sorry that your poor joke caught backlash from human beings. Not just Democrats, not just Republicans, from human beings. The steps I said earlier, the peaceful protests, the spreading the news, the having the conversations, that's the way to go. Again, whether you like the guy or not, keep in mind, he has an 11-year-old kid. I can't imagine what that kid had to go through. Already being made fun of because people didn't like his father, which I spoke out against too. But come on, the left wants to prove to be the superior one, the superior side. Act like it. Because what Kathy Griffin did, and the people on the left side of the fence that support that, and throw out, well, you guys didn't say, nobody said anything about this, about hanging there, Obama. That makes you no better than the folks from 8 years ago that did hang in there, Obama. I'm very, very disappointed in the fact that that people can justify this. I can't. I will stand up and I will fight against Donald Trump and his policies. Under no circumstances do I wish him ill, harm, or death. Chat, lock him up. Lock him up for his Russia collusion. Fine. You don't wish the man to die. You don't wish death on anybody. It's just stupid. And inhumane. Anyways, sorry to start off on such a weird note there, an odd note. It was something that had been bothering me the past few days. But anyways, it's Friday. Enjoy your Friday, because the weekend is upon us, my babies. Stick around. I got Mr. Perez sitting with me in studio. We're going to talk some cigars. We're going to talk wrestling. Hey, he may even give you a new idea for a cigar and alcohol pairing, or cigar and non-alcoholic pairing. You never know. Mr. Perez, when we come back, stick around. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you're looking to support this podcast and this network, visit shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. It will take you right to amazon.com, to your Amazon account, and you can do all of your Amazon shopping. The difference is using our link versus going to Amazon's link is that you are telling Amazon that Gear Network referred you, and they end up giving us a small percentage of your purchase, which helps out this program and this network entirely. And of course, if Amazon's not your thing, it's understandable. On gearnetwork.com, G-E-R-E network.com, if you click on the top bar that says donate to Gear, there's several different PayPal buttons. You can donate to us as well if Amazon isn't your thing. Your support is vital to helping the Gear Network maintain this programming, this quality programming, and continuing our growth through the year. As always, thank you very much for your support and your listens and your downloads and your likes and your shares from all of us here at the Gear Radio Network.
Wicked or weakness, you gotta see this. Yeah. Hey, I remember syrup sandwiches and grandma.
All right, everybody, I am here. Huh? Yeah, it's on. Come on, man. I know what I'm doing, or at least I pretend that I do. I'm not a producer. I just pretend I am on the radio or whatever. I don't understand. Anyways, welcome back to the JC Money Show, everybody, here on the Gear Radio Network's iHeart channel. And of course, if you are not listening on iHeart, then you are listening on iTunes or wherever, because you're able to download this later. But I am joined, as I said earlier on in the show, by the one and only, the incomparable Mr. Perez, my former manager in pro wrestling and one of the many rotating co-hosts, it seems, of Better Live Than Dead, here on the Gear Network. Perez, what is good?
What's going on, people? How y'all doing? It's good to be here. Jay, it's good to see you.
It's always a pleasure. So, for let's talk wrestling really quickly. For those of us or those of the listeners out there that remember you from managing me or managing, whomever. Tell us about your introduction into wrestling. Like what got you interested or what got you involved in wrestling?
Well, when I was younger, my parents watched wrestling, and I actually went to a couple shows here in Rochester at the old War Memorial. That has been torn down and is gone. It is now the Blue Cross Arena. But I went to a couple shows and I enjoyed it. It was just fun. It was cool to watch, and I kind of followed it all my life. I had a couple favorites. The Undertaker was always my favorite. And then, one night I had stopped watching for a while, and I was up. It was late. I think it was a Saturday night, and I was skipping through the channels, and I saw something called ECW. And I was like, let me turn to this. Let me check this out. And it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And that piqued my interest again. And I started getting back into following wrestling in that fashion. The characters were completely different than anything you would see on the mainstream wrestling. And I was a big fan of Raven. And it was just cool to watch. And that got me back into it. ECW came to Rochester once, and I went to that show, and it was pretty cool. And so after that, obviously you were starting to get into it. Tiger Smith, Adam Mendez, Hobie, whatever. He was starting to get into it, and he asked me to be his manager. We sat down one day and we talked about forming a faction, and basically I came up with the Underworld Cartel. And as you know, the rest is kind of history.
Now, what many people don't really know is that you can actually go back to the NMW days. You were in the crowd, and unbeknownst to most people now, there was a place called Jillian's, and you were very, very big as far as like a bouncer there and instrumental in that. So you kind of brought that element into NMW, and I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember trying to get you to manage me there, and that was back in 2001, I'm going to say. Probably. And you, I don't believe, actually started until, I think, 2003?
Well, no, what happened was I was actually very interested in managing you and getting involved, but I moved to Orlando. And so I was gone for a couple of years. And when I came back, I was here a year. I got married. And then the year I got married was when I actually had the opportunity to fully jump into it and manage people. And by that time, you were doing your own thing. And like I said, me and Hobie hammered out the Underworld Cartel, and we brought it to Next Era Wrestling. And that's where it really jumped off. But I was interested in managing you. I just moved out of the state.
Yes. Blame Orlando for everything. So, and now as far as wrestling goes, you haven't actually been in the scene for a while. In fact, you haven't. You probably don't know a lot of the people that are out there now. As far as like any funny war stories or things like that, what are some of your favorite memories from your time in wrestling? Besides the fact that you got to manage me, because I am probably a great person to manage. Ask Handsome Randall, right, Handsome Randy? But I mean, what are some of your favorite stories that you like to tell from your times managing and being involved in wrestling?
Well, managing you was fun. The fact of the matter is, when we get on the microphone, me and you are very similar in the way we approach the crowd, how we interact with the crowd, and I think how I interacted on the crowd and my mic skills was a good thing, because you let someone like Hobie get on the mic and he just rambles, and so they needed someone like me, and frankly the crowd hated me, and I worked very hard to make sure that because we were always heels, and so I made sure that the crowd knew we were the bad guys, and we acted like the bad guys. Now, unfortunately, and I can't say unfortunately, I have to say that really what happened during the time frame that we were coming in and becoming heels, there was really a dramatic shift in the way the crowds at wrestling interacted with wrestlers. Heels were all of a sudden cool. And so even though we would work very hard to make people hate us, they didn't hate us. They actually loved us. And that drove people bananas.
Now, can I just say, we're doing this old school for those. Obviously, you can't see because this is radio, but we're passing a mic like old school. Here I am. Go ahead and swearing, and I didn't really want this to be a swearing show, but here I am. Here we are passing the microphone back and forth, and just shooting the breeze. I got to tell you though, if I could be completely honest with you, I hated that.
Did you?
I hated the fact that people were cheering us, because I was born into the 1980s brand of wrestling where it's good and bad, and I really wanted to be that bad guy heel, that I don't know what because I mean even Ric Flair was cheered, but I mean just that stereotypical heel that I wanted to be booed. But I think the fact that besides the fact that when we were on the mic and we were talking about things that may or may not have been in the script, that even the longtime fans that were sitting in the crowd were kind of like, okay, damn, that's kind of funny. But that's true because we know, because we follow. I still hated the fact that people cheered us because I really wanted to be the bad guy. Now at this point in my life and in my career, when I came out in IWF in January, I got cheered, and there was a lot of old timers that cheered me, and I think that was more because longevity and I'm somebody from way back in the day that they remembered. But I got to say that during our heyday Next Era, I hated that.
You know what? It bothered me at first, but here's where it changed for me. With NEW, we did this gimmick where I was the CEO. And even though I was the CEO, I was still managing the Underworld Cartel. And even though we really worked to make the crowd hate us, I remember one day after a show, one of the fans who came to every single show, like never missed a show, came up to me. And she was, I don't know, 13, maybe 14. And she said, you know what, Perez? She says, I know you guys are the bad guys, and I know we're supposed to hate you. And she said, but I got to be honest with you. You guys do so much better than the people who are the good guys, except for Super Beast. I can't stand Super Beast. I still don't like Super Beast. And I started laughing. I was like, what's wrong with Super Beast? And she was like, I don't know. He's like the bad guy, and I just want to hate him. She said, but you guys, he's so good that even what he does, I want to like him. And from a 13-year-old wrestling fan, she said to me, you guys do what you do better than what the faces do. And that's why I like you. And I was like, you know what? I know people are bothered in the back by the fact that the Underworld Cartel gets cheered. Screw it. I don't care anymore. This fan comes and she's entertained, and that's ultimately what we're here for. I said, so one of the stories I like to tell is, for a while we would do this gimmick, and you weren't always here for those shows if we were traveling. But we used to do this gimmick where I would go to the snack bar and I would spend money on like Snickers and some candy bars. And now listen, people, I'm not a small guy. I'm fat. I get it. But we used to make fun of fat people. And what I would do is I would pick the fattest person out in the crowd. And I would start the promo off by saying, everyone thinks the Underworld Cartel is a bunch of bad guys. Well, I'm here tonight to prove to you that we're actually good guys. We like you people. And I'd point to the fat guy, be like, you, sir, or you, ma'am, you won a prize with Underworld Cartel. And I would throw them like the king size Snicker bar. And I'd be like, you're probably hungry right now. I can tell just by your size. And I don't want you to eat any of the little kids around you. So here's a Snicker bar from the Underworld Cartel. It's very satisfying. I hope it gets you through the contest.
You know what I wish? I wish that, during the time that you mentioned you were in Orlando, I was in Schenectady. One of the favorite stories that I always like to tell is the, and I'm going to tell it right now because I don't care, is I was the heel and I was the top heel at Chip Stetson's Fed up there. Right. And the reason why I was the top heel was because I was feuding with the owner's son. Imagine that.
Go figure.
But I had come, there was a promo where the owner's son was in the ring and he was, doing his, ripping off the Rock lines and whatever, things like that, because that was cool back then. And I came out, and you remember, obviously you remember because you used to have these two with the cane swords. Yeah. I had one. And I used to come out with that. And what I did was I ran out through the crowd with my cane sword. I didn't take the blade out, but I whacked his knee or whatever. And, I start beating him with the freaking cane sword, right? And I start going crazy. And then as I'm walking to the back, there's this girl that says, she's running me down. You suck, JC. You suck. You're terrible. I hate you. Like. Unbelievable! Like I had her. Like it was. I reeled the line out there, and I start reeling her back in. You know what I mean? Like the fishing line. And I'm just letting her go to town. She's just going to town. I mean, telling me how horrible of a human being I am for attacking this freaking dipshit that with the cane and to his knee and everything. And she turns around and she says, "You suck." And I stop, and I don't know what got into me, but I turned around and I looked at her. And I was like, what did you just say to me? She said, and I didn't have a manager then, so it was just me. She said, I said, you suck. And I looked at her and I was like, I suck? You swallow. And the crowd was like, oh. And I was like, well, you know how, and do you know how I know that? And literally, I pointed to one random person in the crowd, one random dude in the crowd. And I said, because that MFer told me that you did.
after the show, I find out that the person that I told swallowed was part of a group that came to the show from the House of Battered and Abused Women.
Geez. Awesome. Oh, no.
And the random dude that I pointed to was the chaperone, whom was gay.
That's awesome.
And they told them that as long as, because they were seeking sponsorships like a son of a bitch, they told them that as long as JC Money was booked on these shows, they were not coming. You can obviously imagine where that went.
Right.
That was back in 2002. If you were there, I don't think we would. That happened at close to intermission, and I was the main event that show.
Right.
I would like to think that if you were there, and as much as we fed off of each other, I've always said you're the pallbearer to my Undertaker.
It would have been worse.
We wouldn't have made it to the main event, I don't think.
No, we would not have made it to the main event. Along the similar lines of that, I was at an OSPW show, and some like 12-year-old was just riding me the entire time, and I like to interact with the crowd, and I turned around, and I looked at him, and I let him yell at me for a couple minutes, and then he said something similar. He was like, "You suck, Perez." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" And he was like, "You suck, Perez." And I said, No. Listen, you got it all wrong. I lick. Ask your mother. And I pointed right at his mom. I was like, she might tell you about that later on. And he the look on his face was like a pure dread. And he was like, "Mom." And I was like, "You don't understand that right now. But one day you will. When your mom explains to what I did."
Let me find out he scarred that dude for life.
Probably.
I will say this though, unlike and I had a small taste of it earlier this year. The new crop nowadays, the new crop is really, really good. I mean, there's a guy by the name of I can name a whole bunch of kids that I've met either through Facebook online or just at the show in January or the shows previous to that where I just showed up to say what's up. But I mean, there's a guy by the name of Anthony Gaines. He's a real good. Actually, Ash manages him in other places, not IWF anymore. But he's really good. Terrell Kenneth is a guy I am really, really, really high on. Like that guy, he's got. You think of Vader and Mark Henry,
Really?
but athletic.
Nice.
Like super athletic. Like this guy, I really think can hit that next level. And Terrell Kenneth, if you're listening, I'm putting you over. I don't know if you ever saw like the same picture of Lamar every day.
Yeah.
Like that guy. That's Terrell Kenneth.
Okay.
And I post him free. But I'm really high in the dude, and so but I think that, like the crop that's out there now, as opposed to back in our day, worlds better, and I think that had that crop been around in our day or us been involved now, I think that there would be a whole hell of a lot of fun that would have been had.
Oh, I believe it. One of the reasons I stopped managing was because, the crowd that was coming up, not the crowd, but the wrestlers that were coming up were really all about them. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like fresh out of training and they wanted a title run. No one earned their stripes. No one would do ring crew. And I did ring crew and I was a manager. But I was there. You help. That's what you do. And the problem I had was that there was a lot of kids who were just selfish and thought it was all about them. And I really didn't want to be associated with that because, I was in the business for, over a decade. And I'd been around the block a couple of times, manager of 32 championships. And we knew how to feed off the crowd. And the younger kids just didn't have the same drive, so to speak. Like, for instance, and I don't know if he listens to this. I'm not trying to. Eric Emanon, I'm really proud of what he's doing right now. He took a hold of his own brand, and he's trying to run with it, and he's doing good things. To me, that's awesome. He came up with us, you know what I'm saying? We beat the ever-loving crap out of that kid a ton, and I made one of his girlfriends straight up cry one day when I was like hitting him. I picked him up, looked at her, and was like, "Is this your man?" And then I hit him over the head with the mag light. Looking right at her. And that's the type of stuff we did. I had some really good times. We met some really cool people. I met a lot of people I watched on TV. I loved hanging out with Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Tito Santana. Like, they were really cool people. And, I have a lot of really cool stories, but my favorite memories really, other than, traveling the road with like you and Hobie and the other people that were involved in Underworld Cartel, Soldier, we had a really good time. And Rob, and the core group when we were in our heyday, say what you want to say about the Underworld Cartel back then, we put asses in seats. People came to see what we were going to do, and we never disappointed. We had some issues with some people. I know I had some issues with some people. One of my favorite memories, I'm not going to lie, is when you broke Archie.
Yes.
And the crowd went from a stunned silence to literally popping like crazy. And that was cool to me because I hated Archie, Another one of the memories I had was also when we were in Rockport and we lost power. And we did the show by like cell phone light. And the crowd was nuts for that. And it was really cool. I've been involved in a lot of really cool things. And I'll be honest with you, there are times when I miss it. Eric has asked me to go to a couple shows and maybe get involved. And frankly, I would be very interested in getting involved with some of the newer crowd because I do miss it at times. I miss the camaraderie. There are people in the locker room that I really liked being around. But, I got out of it because of the fact that at the time when I got out of it, I just couldn't be around that. The locker room was really just getting on my nerves. And no matter what you said to people, they just didn't listen to you.
I understand what you mean there. And affectionately now we refer to that type of behavior and that element as the shindies. And OSPW very much gave birth to the shindy term. And to a degree carried that torch from the time that it was born until the time I stopped really giving a shit about them late last year. So I don't even follow you anymore and care to even war with them anymore. But all right, so I'm going to cut the wrestling talk off here because I'm sure we can go on for hours about this, that, and the other thing, and the history and what we want to do or could do for the future or anything like that. But I want to talk to you more about the cigar industry because I know you're very, very involved with that industry. I want to know about the history of what got you involved. I want to know about, proper ways of smoking cigar. Is there an art to it? Is there a science to it? Is it just light up and go? Anything like that. I want you to share your cigar knowledge with the podcast people, the listening people. But I want you to do it next after this commercial break on the JC Money Show. Stick around. More with Perez after this. Father's Day is Sunday, June 18th, and if you haven't purchased a gift yet, head on over to our Amazon store at shopgear.com and find that perfect gift for your father, stepfather, or father figure in your life. Everything from lawnmowers, tools, grilling supplies, and more can be purchased and delivered right to his door, gift wrapped with a card, and everything, the whole nine. It's awesome. And if your dad is an electronic junkie like me, we have Amazon Fire tablets starting at just $49.99, and for a limited time, buy any 3 all-new Fire tablets, and Amazon's going to knock off an additional 20% from your order. We also have gift cards in any denomination, too, if Dad wants to pick out his own gift. What's more, by using our shopgear.com link to go to Amazon and make your purchases, you help support this program at no additional cost to you. That's right, no gimmicks, my babies. Just use our link and shop Amazon. Have it delivered in 2 days or less with Prime. Make Dad happy and support a small business all at once. Win-win-win for everybody. As always, thank you for bookmarking, saving, and sharing our Amazon link at shopgear.com. IndyCard Media is your one-stop shop for quality designs at a quality price. They offer merchandising, company branding, event posters, custom clothing designs, and so much more. Check out their gallery of past designs by visiting facebook.com/IndyCard Media and tell them what you think. That's IndyCard Media, 337-446-4331 or IndyCardMafia@gmail.com. Tell them that we sent you. Again, 337-446-4331 4331. IndyCard Media. Bring your designs to life.
Besides wrestling, Lewis, you are involved in a lot of other things like the cigar community, and there is a stereotype, I think, or at least there was, that cigars are for older people, and that is not necessarily true nowadays.
Right.
But to those people that think that smoking stogies, the smell and whatever is like, old timey thing. I mean, like, like I said, you're very involved with the cigar industry. What about the cigar industry, I guess, interested you that got you so involved in it and so passionate about it? Because your passion for the cigar industry is, I would say, almost unmatched, except for Rocky Patel. I follow him on Instagram, and his passion is very. But you have a very big passion for cigars. So tell the people that are out there right now listening that may not know about it or may have that perception that the cigar industry is for the old timers. Tell them what it is.
All right, so my introduction to cigars. I'm gonna sit back for this one. My introduction to cigars, I was 17 years old. And I used to go to, now people who live in Rochester, there used to be a coffee shop on Gibb Street called Java Joe's. It's still there. It's now called Java's. Joe recently passed away, God rest his soul. Well, I had just turned 18, and I was there for some reason. I wasn't with anybody. I had a book. I had a cappuccino. And I'm not a big cigar drinker, but I enjoy a cappuccino every once in a while. And I had a cigar. I wanted to try a cigar. I went and bought one for my 18th birthday. Well, Java Joe came over to me, and he sat down with me, and he pulled out a cigar, and we had a cappuccino and a cigar together, and we chatted. And when I tell you, I went back probably once a week and had a cigar with Java Joe, and me and him would have a cigar and a cappuccino and just talk. And unlike cigarettes, you got that stigma of cigarettes that they're bad for you, which they can be very bad for you. But they stink. They're not, they're not nice smelling. They cling to your clothes, and it's not that good. I got very interested in cigars because I really enjoyed the taste of cigars. I enjoyed the smell of cigars. And I started to look into the cigar culture. And what people don't realize with cigars is that, sure, you have your, Philly Blunts and your Swisher Streets. And that's what people really associate cigars with. Those aren't real cigars. It's not even real tobacco most of the time. But when you look at the cigar world, there's actually an art to the cigar. And if people who know me know I actually enjoy the art of things, like when it comes to shaving. I'm very particular about my shave products and how I shave my head and what I use. And, people would be surprised to find out that the shave oil, the shave cream, and the aftershave lotion that I use, if I'm to buy all at once, costs about $100. But there's an art to shaving that I enjoy. I use a straight blade sometimes. I have a strop. There's an art to it. Same thing with cigars. When you blend a cigar, the roller has to choose different tobacco leaves to create a different flavor profile. And so even with the filler of a cigar, a lot of times it might be 2 leaves, just depending on the size of the cigar, just over and over again, or like with the cigar I'm smoking right now. This is a 4-year-old Santiago Cigar Factory Triple Lajero. There are probably 7 different leaves in here, and 3 different types of Lajero, which is the strongest of the tobacco leaves. The one you're smoking is a Santiago 2000. It's a Habano 2000 leaf for the wrapper, and then the binder or the filler will be 4 different tobaccos. Okay. So you have to take these tobaccos And you have to blend them in a way that produces a particular flavor profile, a particular strength profile, a particular burn profile, and the way that it's done is very fascinating. Like if you came to Santiago Cigar Factory, where I work part time, our master roller has been in the business for 45 years. His nephew now rolls for us, and he's our master roller, but like 30 years younger, and they both can blend, which is a rarity in the cigar world. With the bigger cigar houses, you have people who can blend. They take that blend, and then you have people who devein the tobacco, and then it moves on to the next station where people blend the filler, and then put the binder on, and then it goes into a press, and then you have another person that puts on the final wrapper. And the way they do it is fascinating. And so what really attracted me to the cigar world is just that whole thing. There's different ways to cut it. There's a proper way to light it. Some people don't agree with me, and to those people I say you're wrong, but that's okay.
So let me ask, because I light it differently, I think, than you do. What is the proper way to light it? I'll tell you how I light mine. Is I light the outer ring first, and then I light the middle and draw in. I don't know if that's the most kosher way or the appropriate way of doing it or the artsy way of doing it. Right. But how does one properly light a cigar?
Well, if you want to get right down to it, the proper way to light a cigar is with a cedar spill, a cedar, a chunk of cedar. You light the cedar, you light the cigar. A lot of people will tell you to toast the foot, and toasting the foot kind of warms up the tobacco before you start to draw to get the proper light. You rotate the cigar as you light it to get an even light. What a lot of people do nowadays was the implementation of the butane lighters that are basically, they're very solid flames. It's not a soft flame. They will toast the foot with a butane lighter. That, to me, is not right, because what happens is the butane is very hot. It comes out at a rapid rate of speed, and it will burn the tobacco leaves a lot quicker, and you don't want burnt tobacco leaves. So the proper way to light is to toast the foot, but with a soft flame. And so that normally requires a cedar spill or a cedar match. I don't always do it that way because I don't always have cigar matches on me or cedar. So with the butane, I do it very similar to you. You never have the flame directly touching the leaf. If it's a soft flame, the heat will generate it enough to where it lights it. But I'll have the flame barely touching the tobacco, and then I rotate it, and it lights the cigar that way. So the way you do it is fine. There's nothing wrong with the way you do it. But it's the people who will literally sit there with a butane and run it in circles on the end of a cigar for like 20 seconds. It drives me nuts because you're just burning the tobacco, and these are not cheap. No, the way they roll the tobacco and the high end tobaccos that we use at the shop, the first couple of puffs will have a different taste profile because you've burnt that leaf, and that drives me crazy. But then also I've always been into, bourbon, rum, love rum, scotch. You can pair cigars with different whiskey very well. And because I've always been into that culture, pairing a cigar with a scotch or a bourbon just seemed like the natural thing to do.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I remember the one time that we went to, I think it was the Havana House, where there was a cigar expo. I think that was there for Ashton, the brand Ashton, and they were rolling out their Triple Maduro at the time, and they had a it was really cool. you sat there and they gave you dark chocolate, peanuts, and cashews. Okay.
No, it was almonds.
Almonds.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Okay. So dark chocolate, almonds, and that was to cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
And so that way, when you took your first draw of the cigar, you would get the flavor with that. Yeah. Now, for the novice out there who may be thinking about trying a cigar and pairing it with something, give them a good beer maybe to pair it with.
All right, so if you're a novice, chances are you're going to want to start out with a lighter-bodied cigar, which would be something like a Bouzouki wrapper, or the most common is a Connecticut wrapper, a very light-colored tan, not very strong cigar. Good flavors. I don't tend to smoke very many Connecticut's because I've smoked full-bodied cigars for so long that a Connecticut's like smoking air to me. I'm
with you there now.
Right, but if you are starting with that, then you want to drink. If you're going to go with a beer, you want to drink not a very hard beer. So you wouldn't want to go with like an IPA. You wouldn't want to go with a porter. Like if I was, for instance, right now, let's say I was going to have a Connecticut cigar, and we were sitting here and I wanted a beer, I would go literally buy Genesee Orange Honey Cream Ale. It's a very summery beer. It's not a light beer, but it's a light tasting beer with very good flavor. And what you want to do basically is when you're smoking a cigar, you want to make sure that the strength of the tobacco pairs up with the strength of your drink. So if you're smoking a Connecticut and you're drinking like a scotch, the scotch is going to overpower that Connecticut. So you want it to be very complementary. So if you're drinking like a peaty scotch, then you want to have a cigar that's either medium or full-bodied. If you're drinking a lighter scotch, then you could go with a Connecticut. But like with a beer, anything light, Hefeweizen, anything in that category would do well with a light cigar. With a cigar I'm smoking now, the Scotch ale that we had tonight is a good combination. The Scotch ale is a stronger tasting beer, and it goes well with a stronger tasting cigar. So you want to make sure that you're pairing the tobacco with the alcohol you're going to drink. With bourbon, I exclusively smoke strong cigars with bourbon. Most bourbons have a very distinct, strong, almost cedary taste at times, or oaky, depending on the barrel that they're aged in, and it goes well with a stronger cigar. If you're drinking a rye, same thing, medium to full. If you're drinking vodka, then you're probably not going to smoke a cigar because vodka's going to get you messed up. But, you really want to make sure you're matching the strength of the alcohol to the strength of the tobacco.
Same question, non-alcoholic drinks. What would be the best pair for a soda or an iced tea or something like that with a Connecticut or a full-bodied cigar?
If you're going to smoke a Connecticut, you probably should drink some, unsweetened tea. Because you're a pansy already. But I'm just playing. But if you're drinking something, non-alcoholic, Coke works with most cigars. If you're a Pepsi person, I'm sorry, but Pepsi will work also. Unless it's the one made with the natural sugar, and then that's pretty delicious. But I'll be honest with you, I've had Montegoya with cigars before. I love Montegoya, and they make a natural one with natural sugar. That's awesome, and it goes really well with a nice full-bodied cigar. But if you're if you're smoking a Connecticut, you should probably just stick to water, because the water's probably in your real house, but or drink like Bud Light. I don't know, something watery, Coors. Maybe some PBR, but you should never drink PBR. That's not a good thing. Get some Natty Light.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is I one of the episodes of Get Ready America that I always reference is the PBR challenge that you were a part of, where we did the PBR challenge and none of us could. I got it was maybe like a 24 ounce bottle or whatever as part of that challenge. It was the episode of Get Ready America where the Vajenko was born.
Yes.
And I couldn't get through the little tiny cup that I had. Neither could you, and Dawn didn't even want to touch the goddamn thing. But yeah, so I would say yes, definitely a Coke. I tend to like a raspberry iced tea with if I'm not drinking alcohol or whatever, like a raspberry iced tea with any of the cigars I do. But much like you now, I am more of a full-bodied kind of cigar guy because I've been smoking, I think, long enough now to really appreciate that. I had a Connecticut, I think, maybe as recent as 3 or 4 months ago, and I was just kind of like, Right. So it's the casual kind of like, hey, I'm smoking a cigar kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like you want to fit in or whatever. But yeah, or raspberry iced tea, that's pretty cool. So
now, keep in mind, there are people who can't graduate to a full body cigar. There's plenty of people who come into our shop who literally can't stomach a full body cigar. And so they stick to the medium and milds, and that's fine. If you're enjoying a cigar, enjoy whatever you need to enjoy. I would never really mock you for smoking a Connecticut. I will mock you, but it's all in good taste. It's all just in fun. So you don't have to smoke full body cigars to really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell a story right now about me and you enjoying a full body cigar once. So many moons ago, there was a company who, before John F. Kennedy signed the embargo on Cuban tobacco, there was a company, and the name eludes me right now, I apologize, but they have bought something like 45 metric tons of Cuban tobacco and brought it to the United States to roll. And then the embargo was signed, and they were not able to roll the cigars. Now, here's the good thing about tobacco. It's a lot like wine. If you keep it in the proper environment, you can age it for as long as you want to. I have a cigar right now in the car that's about 14 years old. And it's been sitting in my humidor and my humidor locker forever. Well, they reached an agreement with the United States government to be able to finally roll these cigars. And so the agreement was you could have so many lines of cigars that are pure Cuban tobacco, and then you have to have so many lines of cigars that have the Cuban tobacco mixed with other tobacco. And so they partnered with someone in Ecuador, and they had a Cuban cigar that had Ecuadorian tobacco in it. Really good cigar. But then they released a bunch of regular Cuban cigars that the tobacco had literally been sitting over 50 years. And so they picked, I think it was something like 50 cigar shops across the country to sell these cigars, which in the grand scheme of things, 50 cigar shops is not a lot across the United States. And Dewey F. Smoke Shop was one of them. So I went the first day, stood in line, bought a bunch of cigars. They were awesome. About a week later...
Oh, you're talking about those legal Cubans from...
Yes, yeah, the legal ones. So about a week later, John, who was the cigar guy at the time at Dewey F. Smoke Shop, God rest his soul, he was awesome. He calls me up, and he says, listen, I just got a shipment in from that company, and it's a mistake shipment. They made 2 boxes of Cuban Ligero cigars. The entire thing was Ligero. The wrapper, the binder, the filler was all Cuban Ligero. And Ligero is the strongest leaf that they make. And so he was like, I thought of you because I know you like full-body cigars. And I was like, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. That's all you had to say. I'm coming right now. And so I went and I bought, he wouldn't let me buy the whole box because other people, he wanted to sell some to other people, but I bought half a box. And I told you about it. And your first reaction was, I want one. So you came to my apartment at the time, 1600 Elmwood. And I handed you one, and I flat out told you, I don't think you're ready for this. So I'm not going to light my cigar. I'm going to wait till you take a couple puffs to see what your reaction is. And then if need be, I'll just smoke the rest of yours. But if you can handle it, I'll just light mine and we'll be good to go. And you were like, nah, dude, I got this. I got this. You took like 5 puffs. And then you literally turned green. I'm surprised you don't remember it because we were sitting in my living room at 1600 Elmwood, smoking in the living room when we weren't supposed to do that. The windows were open, and Melinda didn't care for some odd reason. You literally took like 5 puffs and turned green. And you were like, yeah, I can't do this. And so I finished the rest of yours. Those were the strongest cigars I've ever smoked. I'm not going to lie. I took 5 puffs, and cigars don't normally affect me, but after 5 puffs, I was like, oh, this is super strong. But then, yeah, I finished the cigar, then I was fine after that. But, yeah, that was a funny one, because
I don't remember that. I think I could probably handle it now, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember that. But what I do remember is the one time that we were at, what was that place? On the Rocks. And yeah, the Mount Hope Smoke Shop, and you had some kind of strong cigar. I don't know if it was all Lajero, but there was this one kid who was an RIT student or U of R student, excuse me, or right around there. But I would say the celebrity he most resembled would be Steve-O from Jackass. And I remember you had just finished it. You had maybe like, I don't know, maybe like an inch and a half left of the cigar. And this guy was like, yeah, dude, what do you got, dude? Yeah, what do you got, dude? And you told him, and I could do that. I could take that right to the head, man. I could do that. And you were like, no, you probably can't. He's like, no, go ahead, give it to me, man. I don't care. I don't care about germs. I don't care, whatever, you know. So you handed him the last little bit of the cigar that you had, and quite literally, this guy who had been projecting himself to be this hardcore badass that could take any amount of pain or any amount of anything in the world turns green as grass and hauls ass out there because I'm presumably to throw up. But it was pretty funny, and but yeah, as far as me, I don't remember it, and it's probably one of those things where I blocked it out of my memory.
Right. Probably. You can probably handle it now. Another funny story from back then is we were sitting there one night, and there was a guy working there who obviously knew nothing about cigars, and the guy was asking him questions, and he told him to grab a KO. And so you and I sat there looking at each other like, KO? Like, what's a KO? Now, for those of you who don't know, there's a company called C.A.O. CAO. It stands for the guy who started the company, Charles something Ozager. And so I was like, I've never heard of KO. Have you ever heard of KO? Like, I don't think you know. So dude comes out of the humidor, and he's got the CAO in his hands. And I was like, oh, CAO. Okay, that makes sense. And the guy behind the counter was like, yeah, KO. I'm like, no, dude, CAO, not KO. And me and you got a very good laugh at that. I'm going to tell you another story real quick about that time. I was there one day. It was a Saturday afternoon. And there was a guy locally who was making cigars. And it came in a little glass tube, had a little tobacco at the end. The look was nice. And a lot of people would come in and smoke these cigars. And it was like Dr. So-and-so. He still makes cigars, Wacko cigars. Terrible cigars. But so I was like, you know what? All these people come in and try these cigars. What the heck? I'm going to try one. So I went and got one. I clipped it. I lit it. I smoked about a quarter of it, and I put it down. And when I got another cigar. So I grabbed the other cigar. There's a guy sitting in the room, and he says, "Hey, you're not going to finish that one?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to finish it. It was terrible." And he was like, "Can I ask why?" It was terrible. And so I broke it down to him, like, the tobacco tastes young, doesn't have a good burn, it's kind of bitter. You know, I just broke down what the problem was with the cigars. He goes, "Oh, I make those." And I looked at him, and I was like, "You may want to think about a different line of work." I'm just throwing that out there. But you know, to his credit, you know, he's stuck in there. He still makes cigars. I've had some of his cigars recently, and I can happily say that he has made the first, second, third, and fourth worst cigar I've ever smoked in my life. So I would still tell him to get a different line of work.
All right, so that was actually an interesting segue. I was going to ask you, worst cigar you've ever smoked?
This Doc, whatever it was, and the Rocco cigars. I've had a couple of them. As recently as 3 weeks ago, I'd had a couple sitting in my box for like 3 years, just aging it, thinking maybe the age would do the tobacco some good. I clipped it, I lit it, I took 3 puffs, and I was like, "Nope, this is still pretty terrible." And then I passed it to another guy, and he was like, "Yeah, this is pretty nasty." So he's made the first, second, third, and fourth worst cigars I've ever smoked. But recently, I have a friend who's a big cigar guy. He got some free cigars from an order from Cigars International, and he gave me one. I was like, "I just want to know what you think of this." And this one is probably tied for the second worst cigar I've ever smoked. It smelled like potpourri. You know, like that stuff you put in your bathroom. It smelled like potpourri. And then I clipped it and I lit it, and it tasted like potpourri. And it was pretty terrible. And it was so strong of a taste that I had to brush my teeth twice and gargle with mouthwash twice before the taste faded. It was terrible. And I went online to see the ratings of these cigars. People were like, "Oh, this is a great cigar, great infusion, blah, blah, blah." No, it was not a great cigar. It was pretty bad.
I guess then my next question would be, why would people even bother to flavor cigars like that? Like, I would think that if you're trying to get a flavor of a cherry or a potpourri, I guess, or anything like that just takes away from the tobacco and the leaves and all of that makes a cigar a cigar. Why would people do anything like that?
Well, some people like flavored cigars, and you can flavor a cigar and not have it be overpowering or too strong, and add to the flavor. And frankly, I'm going to be honest with you, there's a lot of women who like flavored cigars. A lot of women come into our shops and they'll buy like a red wine or honey, or a cherry, or we make one called the Fireball. That's literally like those old Fireball cinnamon candies. People like that. But the flavoring on our tobacco is not too heavy, you know. So there's a segment out there for people who like that. Lars Tetton, he makes a lot of flavored cigars, and he's starting to get a name again. He disappeared for a while. Now he's back. I've had a couple of his cigars. I got one in the car right now. I don't get that, you know. I don't like flavored cigars. I want my tobacco to taste like tobacco. With us at the Santiago Cigar Factory, when you buy a flavored cigar, every single flavored cigar is blended the same exact way. You know, we're not trying to make it seem like it's a super high-end cigar with flavoring. It's one blend. It's a mild blend. It's for you to enjoy the actual flavoring. And there's a big segment out there of people who like that. You know, and then there's companies like Drew Estates. You know, they have the acid line. No, people, it's not a cigar mixed with acid. That'd be illegal. But they make several different cigars that are flavored, and people like that. I don't know why people like that. I've done one acid in my life, 1.5, and I smoked the Cuba, and dude, when I was 9 years old, my mother washed my mouth out with soap, and that was very reminiscent of smoking this Cuba Cuba. I don't get it. You know, they have a proprietary way that they flavor the tobaccos, where they literally coat the tobacco in flavoring. Damn, son, you may want to check your pants. That was nasty. I don't know if y'all heard that, but if you did, sorry.
I'm going to make sure to intensify that.
Nice. So I don't get why people do it, but there is a huge segment of people who like flavor cigars, and so that's really the only reason why I can imagine people do it. To me, it's not like smoking a real cigar. You know, I don't want my cigar to taste like whatever they're putting on their cigars. You know, I will do a Fireball every once in a while, just because I like the cinnamon flavor. But for the most part, like, I don't know. I want my tobacco to be blended in a way that creates a particular taste that's natural.
Perez, any final thoughts you want to say to the listening people out there right now?
Hey, man, just thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I enjoy it. We'll have to do something again soon. And to the people listening to this podcast, all of y'all. No, I'm just playing. I love you guys. I'm hoping to be on the air soon.
Oh, I think I could work something out with the owner of this network to get you on air a little more. I mean, I'm pretty tight with the guy. I know him. I know him pretty well, I think. I don't know. Sometimes he goes a little crazy on me, the owner of the Gear Network does, but, other times he's pretty cool and does whatever I ask. So I think I can work on getting you on. But anyways, thanks, Lewis, for joining us here on the JC Money Show. You can follow Lewis and his adventures pretty much on every social network platform known to man at Mr. LG Perez. And now, time to cue that music. That's going to do it for this edition of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network's iHeartRadio channel. That's right. Of course, you can listen to it every day on iHeartRadio if you wish. And at the end of the week, every JC Money Show episode will be available for download on the Gear Network Spreaker page. Visit shopgear.com to do all of your Amazon shopping. Of course, that helps us out. That sustains this program and sustains all of the other programming on the network as well. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you shopping. Tune in next time for an all-new edition of the JC Money Show. When I post it, it'll be right here first on iHeartRadio, Gear Network style. So long, everybody. Good night now. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.